Hi, I'm Ben, and welcome to Far From Expert Cooking, the show where I'll be just as surprised as you are by the outcome of today. I've always cooked, my family always cooked, and I've learned a lot from my parents, my grandparents in cooking, and what I've learned from my dad particularly has been a bit of a disdain for recipes. I don't like being told what to do. I like to experiment and try things and see what I like and see what fits something or what doesn't fit something. And all I've done all my life is just pushing that boundary and trying. So welcome and good luck. Today we're gonna make milanesas. This is a milanesa. A milanesa is basically like a breaded scallop. It can be done with beef, with chicken, with pork, with vegetables, with whatever you have. So Italian immigrants took this dish to South America, and South Americans really took it on board because it's a really versatile dish. It's something that you can freeze, that you can store in the fridge. You can do with different types of meat. You can do with cheaper types of meat because you don't use very thick cuts. And also you can do whatever you want with it. You can actually use it as a replacement for a pizza base and put toppings on it. You can cut it in squares and just eat it like part of a mezza type meal. It's so big that in Argentina we actually have full chains of restaurants that serve nothing but variations of milanesas. So everything that we're going to do as well, we're going to do in less than an hour preparation and cooking. So let's crack on, let's get to it and let's get cooking. So before we get cracking, ambience is important. Even if you're going to cook for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, just pour yourself a drink, pour yourself a glass of wine, pour yourself a non-alcoholic drink, although I wouldn't recommend that. Put some music on and make it an experience that you enjoy. Today I'm listening to a little bit of house music, and also I have with me my Campari and Orange, which is your bonus recipe for today. It's really simple. It's just fresh squished orange juice that can come from a bottle. Just don't use the concentrate thing, it tastes awful. And Campari in a ratio of 90 to 10 or 20 to 80. 80% juice. Don't get drunk before you start cooking, basically. Ingredients that we're going to use today include beef, eggs, spices, to which I very cleverly block the brands because I'm not doing any free advertising for you, I mean 5 viewers. We're going to use some mustard, some Parmesan and some breadcrumbs. This is still my drink, by the way. Remember that this is the way I make this recipe. It doesn't have to be the way that you do it. So if these spices are not to your taste, then use what you have in your cupboard and just make things up and just try it and just go with it. The first thing we have to do is I'm going to make the egg mix, which is what we're going to bathe and soak the meat before breading it. For that, we're going to need to break some eggs. So I tend to break eggs in a different container, one by one, just because if a little bit of the shell falls into it, you can scoop it out before it getting into the main container where you're going to do the mix. So one by one. I'm not going to tell you right now how many eggs I'm going to use because at this moment I don't know. I'm just going to wing it and tell you later. See, a little bit of shell. And tell you later how many eggs I have used. It doesn't matter if you go a little bit over in the amount of eggs, and after we finish I'm going to tell you why, because we're going to do something with these eggs. We're not going to throw it away. I hate waste, so I won't throw them away. So at the moment, let's see, I have 4 and I think that one more will be fine. So that's 5. Maybe 6. We'll go for it. So I have 6 eggs. Remember to clean after yourself. I normally don't, but this is a respectable show, so I'll pretend that I'll clean a little bit. So now we're going to spice the eggs. I'm going to use oregano or oregano, however you pronounce it, smoked paprika, garlic granules, salt and pepper, mustard, and Parmesan cheese. There's a key thing about the eggs. The eggs is what is going to bind your meat to the breading. So there's a little bit of a balance of how much you can season it. Otherwise, the seasoning will just make the breading fall off the meat. So you don't have to go overboard with it. But at the same time, you have to remember that you are seasoning the egg, not the meat. From the egg, only a small layer is going to remain with the meat. So if you don't use a lot of seasoning, then it's just gonna taste bland. So what I'm gonna do is there's no point of having this. I'm just gonna, again, it's probably around a teaspoon, more or less. A little bit of paprika, just a few dashes. I like garlic, so I'm gonna use a little bit of garlic, but you can use as much as you can. A little bit. Mustard is one of the things that is gonna make it not stick to the meat, so you don't want to use a lot of that. So I'm gonna use basically just a couple of teaspoons, or one very heaped teaspoon. I'm gonna use Parmesan, and Parmesan is gonna give it a little bit of a salty taste and a little bit of a nice texture to the breading. This is probably about a tablespoon, I wanna say. Remember, just do it at your taste. Some fine salt, not a lot, and just a little bit of ground white pepper to add a little bit of a spicy aspect to it. And now it's just a matter of whisking. If you don't have a whisk, you can always use a fork. You can use chopsticks. You can use whatever you have at home, really. I'm not gonna tell you anything about it. What you need to make sure, though, is that it is quite well mixed and integrated. Just go and go and go and whisk. And whenever you think that it's already done, do it a little bit more. This is probably going to take you about a minute or so. So let's put this to the side for a second and let's talk about the meat. So the meat that we're going to use today is beef. However, this is no by any chance restricted. I've done this with pork, I've done it with chicken, I've done it with fish. You can also do it if you're vegetarian with aubergine. If you do it with aubergine, you just need to cut it a little bit thicker and slice it sort of to the length of the aubergine to have a nice chunk. Regardless of the meat that you're using, the important bit is to use a piece of meat that doesn't have a lot of free fat. The reason for that is that free fat is going to get liquid when it cooks and it's going to take the breading out. So whatever you use, chicken, pork, beef, just try to make something that doesn't have free fat. In this case, I'm using what my butcher calls top rump, or extra lean raisin steak. What you want to do with this is you want to basically work a little bit on your anger and you want to hammer it down a little bit. The hammering works in terms of tenderizing the meat, making it a little bit thinner, because as you can see, I have steaks that are around probably half a centimeter to a centimeter wide, and basically, according to my grandmother, it opens up the fiber so it soaks more egg, so it's a little bit nicer tasting. So work your aggressiveness into this and go for it. And once you've done that, just submerge it in the egg and go to the next steak. So here I have about 12 steaks. They're about 100 to 120 grams each. And I'm using 6 eggs, which I now know that it's going to be a lot, but I didn't know that before. So then I'm going to use it differently. So go on, hammer away. If you don't have a hammer, you can use the back and the back of your, not the back, the front of your hand. So you can go, and it'll do the same effect. You just do it on both sides and soak it up in the egg. So now that we have all of the meat in the egg, it's up to you whether you let it rest or not. You can just bread it all right now, or you can leave it to rest in the fridge overnight or for a couple of hours. I prefer to leave it in the fridge for the sole reason that then it absorbs a little bit more of the flavoring on the seasoning of the egg. So I'll leave this there, and tomorrow we'll reconvene and then we'll bread the Milanesas. So my meat has been marinated overnight. Remember, you don't have to. You can dip it and bread it if you need to. And now we're gonna bread it. You'll find in the supermarket either the blue or the golden breadcrumbs. The only difference, in my opinion, is aesthetic. If you're gonna fry them, you can use the blue one. If you're gonna make them in the oven, like I'm gonna do, I'll use this one because it has the better color. What you need to do is to just pinch one of them, get the excess off, just lay it there, cover it, and press. Press, and press, and press. Turn, cover and press, cover and press, cover and press, shake, 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 and here you have the first one. Now, I only have 3 of these, so I'll let you know if I have to go out and panic buy some more because I ran out. So you get some quantities. So, last one. If we do a little bit of a time take, it took me about 10 to 15 minutes to prepare and soak these ones in the eggs. And it's taken me about 10 minutes to bread 12 of them. So even if you are a family of 4, you can make 3 meals out of these in about half an hour preparation. So no excuses. And here we go. Put in the fridge to rest if you like, or just plainly cook. So now that you've prepared your Milanesas, storage, you can put them in the fridge or you can actually freeze them. That's why when I make them, I make a lot and I just chuck them in the freezer. Important to freeze them is just freeze them in a way that they don't touch each other so they don't stick. But once they're frozen, you can actually just chuck them in a bag and they occupy really, really not a lot of space. So these are some pork ones that I made about 3 weeks ago. And I just chuck them in bags once frozen, and this is as much room as they take in your freezer. But before we get to cooking, we have these leftovers. I hate throwing away, and the breading has been in contact with raw meat, so you can't really keep it. So I'm going to show you something else that we can do and use as a side to use these remaining eggs and these breading. Okay? So I've grated some red Leicester cheese. I have around 150 to 100 grams here, and I'm just going to add it into the egg, and then I'm going to add a little bit of the breading. I'm going to try and use as much as I can, and basically just start mixing it with the egg. You want to get something that has a bit of a wet consistency, so it's something that you can form. Let's see, I'm gonna add a little bit more of the breading. I hate things going to waste. You can mix it with a fork, or you can actually just mix it with your hand as well. It depends on how much you like getting your hands dirty. Okay, so now these has a little bit of a dough consistency, as you can see here. So basically, now you can do with these whatever you want. What I like to do is I like to grab small pieces, just roll it around in my hands, and then try to make a little ball. So these little balls you can bake or you can fry, and then you can use as a cheesy crouton in your salads. Or if you want, actually, you can grab these and mold it into a a pie pan and just mold it into what it looks like, sort of like, you know, your garlic breads. And you just mold it into it, and then again you bake it until you see it's done. This way you can use every single bit of what you've used and not waste a thing. So now it's time for cooking. So you can either shallow fry these, you can deep fry it, or you can do it in the oven. I'm not very keen on shallow frying because it just soaks up a lot of oil and it's soggy and it's not that nice for me. It's just very oily. If you deep fry it, the thing is it only absorbs the oil that it needs to, so it's really crisp and nice. But what we are going to do is we're going to do it in the oven. I've put a little bit of sheet there, a non-stick sheet, so we can reduce the amount of oil. I just use a little bit of spray oil on them, and into the oven they go. So this is going to go into the oven and it's going to go for about 20 minutes in total. So the Milanesas are going to go about 10 minutes each side, probably a little bit less. If they're frozen, definitely 10 minutes for each side, and in 20 minutes you have a meal. Okay, so 20 minutes have passed, Milanesas are ready. But in those 20 minutes, actually, I had a little bit of an idea, and you know that bread and egg mix that I put into a pie tin? I had the idea, why not make it a starter for the family? So I basically turned it into a little bit of a quote, pizza. Let's have a look. All I've done with these is just, I opened a tin of tomatoes, put a little bit of sugar to cut the acidity, a little bit of pepper, and a little bit of oregano, and just put some mushrooms that I had in the fridge, and a little bit of the red Leicester cheese that I had left. And here you go, a family share starter. And now let's check on our Milanesas and see what they look like, shall we? That's it. Oh, that looks nice. Let's take it here so we can plate him. So I'm going to plate one of the Milanesas and just a spoonful of the little balls that you can also use as something to dip in. Now, these have meat, a lot of carbs, so you want something really fresh to go with it. So all I've done here is just put together a very simple salad. It's just lettuce, tomatoes, cucumbers, and some orange as well, some pieces of orange. And it's just dressed with a little bit of salt and pepper and a little bit of oil. And that gives you a full meal for the whole family in about, what, half an hour, 45 minutes? So let's dig in. I don't have a fork and a knife. I need to get a fork and a knife. Let's dig in. Ah, look at that. That looks amazing. Let's see what it tastes like. Mmm.